What if a whole region the size of a small country slowly sank beneath the sea, hiding what were once hills and forests and fertile lands that people had inhabited successfully for thousands of years? It sounds like the start of a new fantasy novel, but as it turns out, that really has happened. And not only that, it's happened more than once in rapid succession, geologically speaking. At the peak of the last ice age about 20,000 years ago, sea levels around the world were much lower than today. But coastal areas are often a good place for human settlement, offering a ready source of protein from fish and shellfish. So some of the very sites where people might have chosen to live are precisely the places that were about to be inundated, and hence hard for scientists to find. The Black Sea region is one of the richest in terms of potential for the archaeological study of early civilizations, but part of the story seems to be missing. In Turkey, Greece, and the Valley of the Danube, there are apparent gaps right around the time when people started adopting farming as a way of life. That era, the Neolithic, or New Stone Age, is a major turning point in the story of humanity. Archaeologists need artifacts from transitional sites to understand how the shift from hunting and gathering to agriculture took place. But first, they need to find them, and the part of this region with the best remains of early farming villages may currently be at the bottom of the Black Sea. At the end of the last ice age, the Black Sea was a huge freshwater lake, although its shorelines were much lower than today. A thin land bridge kept out the salt water of the Mediterranean. According to one theory, as the level of the Mediterranean rose, it put pressure on this thin natural dam, eventually creating a waterfall 200 times as big as Niagara Falls. Some researchers have conjectured that oral histories of that catastrophe inspired the ancient flood narratives, like the story of Noah or Gilgamesh. However, the Black Sea flooding may not have been as sudden or voluminous as suggested by the broken dam theory, and it might have come from the Caspian Sea instead, a different direction altogether. No matter where they came from, fast or slow, floods would have been bad news for Neolithic farmers near the Black Sea, but they could be a boon to archaeologists. The depths of the Black Sea have very low oxygen levels, and in those conditions, organic materials you'd expect to find in a Neolithic village, wood, fibers, animal skins, stand a comparatively good chance of preservation. The trouble is figuring out where to dive, a problem shared by underwater archaeology in several other regions. Modern surveying technologies can help, but apparently, so too can lobsters. In 1999, a team of marine archaeologists were surveying near the Isle of Wight on Britain's southern coast. There they noticed that local lobsters had done some digging of their own. Burrowing down into the seafloor, the crustaceans had excavated a number of Stone Age flint tools. Subsequent expeditions found additional sites at the underwater formation known as Boulder Cliff. The site dates from more than 8,000 years ago, when the area was still dry land, and researchers have found evidence at Boulder Cliff of very early boat building and long-distance trade. A map of northern Europe during the Ice Age of the Late Pleistocene looks quite unfamiliar compared to the modern coastline. For one thing, Great Britain was a peninsula rather than an island. Even more dramatic is what's right next to it, a landmass the size of a whole country in the middle of the North Sea. Dubbed Doggerland, the region joined Britain with the Netherlands, Germany, and Denmark. Then, as the often icy Pleistocene gave way to the warmer Holocene, it disappeared. Mapping the North Sea floor has shown the river valleys and hills of the forgotten country. In its time a fertile region, undersea exploration at Doggerland may hold clues to the lives of Northern Europe's earliest farmers. Since 1931, artifacts found at sea or washed ashore have hinted at the habitation of this lost land. Recent exploration has shown that it was no mere land bridge, and in fact, Doggerland had vast areas suited to human settlement. Although the inundation of water was often too slow to observe in a single lifetime, there were exceptions. 3 massive underwater landslides took place off the coast of Norway about 8,000 years ago. These landslides caused massive tsunami waves, which would have devastated what was left of Doggerland. But even if the islands had been able to recover from that disaster, the inexorable rise of the sea would have always meant doom for Doggerland was unavoidable. And it was far from the only ancient place to meet this fate. Numerous other lost countries lie on shallow continental shelves around the world. Beringia is the name for a region that once connected both Alaska and Siberia. It may have sustained human populations for thousands of years during the last ice age. As glaciers receded, one theory suggests, ancestors of American Indians began migrating south along North America's Pacific coast. On the opposite side of the planet, Sundaland is the name scientists have given to a landmass, basically its own continent, that included the islands of Sumatra, Java, and Borneo, and the Malay Peninsula. Just to the east of that was the ancient continent of Sahul, which included both Australia and New Guinea. Sundaland and Sahul had populations of modern human beings for some 50,000 years, meaning that artifacts of human habitation also lie in the ocean off Indonesia and Malaysia. Like the Black Sea, a very compelling lost land yet to explore is the so-called Gulf Oasis. In the Pleistocene, this was a lush land of rivers and a huge freshwater lake, which would one day become the modern Persian Gulf, also called the Arabian Gulf or just the Gulf. The region shows a spike in human settlement starting around 9,000 years ago. That implies an influx of people, possibly including groups moving to higher ground, as the lake became a rising salt sea. The Persian Gulf could harbor early sites of enormous significance to the history of civilization. Right now, the oldest known cities are from the Sumerian civilization of southern Iraq, near the delta where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers meet the Gulf. Down the coast to the south and east, excavations in the island country of Bahrain have revealed the civilization of Dilmun, named for a semi-mythical paradise in Sumerian religion and history. Possibly inspired by their connections to the region, Dilmun features in the Sumerian creation myths as a place bestowed with fresh water. An intriguing theory suggests that some of the predecessors of Sumeria and Dilmun were migrants from lower altitude lands that were flooded as salt water from the ocean encroached onto the large freshwater lakes and rivers. Considering the importance of the region in technological breakthroughs ranging from the origin of writing, the invention of the wheel, to the planting of wheat and the brewing of beer, new major chapters of world history or even dramatic changes to what we think we know about the origins of human civilization may await discovery at the bottom of the Gulf. This lost country may even be one of the first places occupied by modern humans outside of Africa. Thus far, underwater archaeology in the region has been limited, so for now this ancient paradise, if it existed, still awaits discovery. But there are plenty of sites where underwater archaeology is happening, and a pair of sites on the Mediterranean hints at the possibilities for this field of study in the future. Mapping the shallow seafloor off the coast of southern Greece, archaeologists have worked with artists to put together a picture of a thriving ancient community from a time long before Homer. The researchers call the town Pavlo Petrie, although its ancient name remains a mystery. Similar work is being done off the coast of Israel, where archaeologists have been studying a village called Atlit Yam. Preserved much as it was when the residents seem to have abandoned it 9,000 years ago, the people of Atlit Yam may have led quite a good life, raising various crops and animals, and of course fishing in the sea just beside their community. They lived long lives for the era and buried their dead with offerings. They even built a megalithic structure that kind of resembles Stonehenge. Its function isn't clear, but it may have been associated with a fresh water source. The remains of several stone wells at the Atlit Yam hold clues to its likely downfall. In succession, each well became converted to a trash pit, likely because it stopped producing fresh water. And of course, the salt water kept coming until it reached its modern coastline a quarter-mile away. As archaeologist Ehud Galili noted to the Jerusalem Post, right now Atlit Yam is the best preserved village from its time in the Mediterranean, and for thousands of years the structures and artifacts were protected under the sands. But he adds that as modern sea levels rise and shift the sands on the seafloor, sites like Atlit Yam face the risk of being lost forever. In the meantime, marine archaeology is giving us the chance to reclaim a part of history long lost to the waves. Which underwater locations do you think researchers should explore? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video, Battle of Thermopylae, Spartans vs. Persians. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.